Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy for both the collective and each individual life path number for August 2022. So before we get into the forecast, I just want to, of course, mention that this is a general reading. So if you would like to sort of dive more deeply into your own personal energies, because they may be very different from sort of what we're looking at collectively or what you're even looking at from a collective life path energy, then please book some time with me. I do offer month ahead forecast, personal month ahead forecast, as well as year ahead forecasts, which again are tuned into your personal numerology and your personal energies. And then, of course, I also offer coaching with numerology, your numerology reports. There's a whole plethora of offerings on my website. So if you're interested in working with me and again, diving deeper into your own numerology and personal energies, then book some time with me. I would love to work with you. Okay, so August 2022, we are working with a 14-5 energy. Now, those of us who have a lot of sort of predominant 5 energies throughout our reports, throughout our charts, this is sort of going to be more, it's just going to be more of what we're sort of used to. We're very familiar with this energy, so we can kind of adapt to it and move with the punches. But it's still going to be important to understand that we're getting a heavy dose of this month. And so just to be prepared and so to be able to work with it to the best of our abilities. Those of you who don't have a lot of 5s within your chart, this can be, sometimes 5 energy can be it can feel a little disruptive. It can feel very transformative. It can feel as if sort of the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. But it can also sort of bring more spice into your life. It can bring about this desire for freedom, to break free, to move beyond the restrictions, to travel, to explore. It's a very big, fast-moving energy. So it can be a lot to sort of wrap your head around and your energy around if you're not used to working with it. So, but it is very much working for us as opposed to against us. A lot of times with 5 energy, it tries to move us abruptly sometimes to where it is that we need to be on our journey. So if we've got distracted or we're procrastinating, the 5 energy is so good about sort of coming in like this big gust of wind to lift us up and put the wind in our sails to get us moving again. So it is very, very positive energy, but it can be a lot to work with. So let's look at the forecast. So this can be a cycle when we are forced to sort of see things from a new perspective, because we're not only working with the 5 energy, we're working with the influencing energy of the 14. So this is also, I've sort of marinated that into this forecast as well. So we can be kind of asked to see things from a new perspective through new clarity coming in or new experiences that help us to better understand a situation. So these new experiences may have us reviewing past behavior to see if there's things that we want to approach differently. This is very powerful energy. So this cycle can highlight areas where we may need to choose to modify our lifestyle in some way to get different results than what we have been seeing. There's a lot of sort of personal responsibility that's sort of, again, included in this energy, right? So this is big, explosive, and expansive energy, and desires that we didn't even know that we had can surface now. The more that we can sort of ground ourselves and keep checking in with the reality of the situation, that's really, really important to remember, like to keep checking in with the reality, because 5 energy can have you thinking about, dreaming really big and using that big imagination and going after those big goals, which is great. But we can often lose sight of the reality of the situation and what we're actually working with. And so it's important to keep coming back to that. I kind of sometimes think of 5 energy as being very similar to like Uranus energy in astrology. It's got a lot of the same kind of dynamic influences. So anyway, so again, the more that we can ground ourselves and keep checking in with the reality of the situation, the less likely we are to sort of get swept up into something that's not truly aligned with us and our goals. So pay attention to, again, like what comes in for you this month. Not to say that new relationships that come in this month or that sort of get springboarded this month won't last. It's very possible that they could, and it could be that this energy is coming in to sort of facilitate that. But it's also possible that we're putting on 6 layers of rose-colored glasses and sort of getting enamored with maybe somebody or something that's not necessarily the best long-term fit. So just kind of keep that in mind. And that's what I say, keep coming back to the reality of the situation, right? Try to find a way to marry both those that more idealistic viewpoint and the reality, and then you'll have like a healthy balance. So this can be incredibly creative energy. So this can be a very creative period where sort of we move the magic of the imagination into something more tangible within the physical reality. So this is very supportive energy for unconventional thinking and creating as far outside of the box as your imagination wants to take you. So play in the realm of creativity as much as possible, while also keeping yourself grounded as much as possible. So again, you're finding the balance between the two and having them work together with synastry, right? Like this can be such an incredibly powerful, creative period if we work with the energy in a very balanced way. So moderation, as I always say with 5 energy, is going to be key for the best results, right? For the most beneficial results of this energy. This can also be a profitable time for commercial, sort of seeing more money and business dealings. So anything that you have to do, like any kind of interaction or any kind of, just any kind of interaction that you have or transaction that you have that's commercial, around money, around business dealings, can be very profitable at this time. Just make sure that you're slowing down and paying attention to all of the details and the possible outcomes or scenarios before fully committing or signing your name to anything. And so I want to repeat that because I think it's really, really important, especially when we're working with 5 energy, because we don't have like any kind of 4 energy here, although we might have some through the illuminations of the full moon or the new moon. I can't remember. But 4 energy is like the details. 5 energy is just, let's go. It's so big and expansive that a lot of times it can lose sight of those details, right? The finer print. So again, slow down, pay attention to all of the details and the possible outcomes or scenarios before fully committing or signing your name to anything. So again, it's not like you want to be the Debbie Downer or, be pessimistic or whatever. It's again, bringing that realism into the situation to be like, okay, this is the risk. This is what could potentially come from that risk. This is the potential outcomes. And this is the scenarios that I could be facing if I take this risk. Is it worth that to me? Right. So there just needs to be kind of this, in the midst of all of this big energy, these periods of checking in and making sure that, the route that you're taking or the risks that you're taking are what you want to be taking, or that you're open to, that you're okay. You've explored the possible outcomes and you're okay with those. You might not want to have to deal with those possible outcomes, but you've evaluated them and you can work with them, right? 14-5 energy can bring big hopes and huge aspirations that make it really easy to sort of disregard or overlook possible catastrophic outcomes. And so that's what I mean. It's like, yes, take a risk, but be sure you're well aware of what the potential risks are before saying yes. And of course, it's life, so we don't always know everything that could possibly happen. I think that's implied, right? But it's about doing your best to try to do the research, just to make sure that you have an understanding of what could potentially go wrong, and are you able to work with that, right? If that were to happen, if the worst case scenario were to occur, can you handle that? Can you work with that? If the risk is too great, then you may want to modify it. So modify the situation, modify the opportunity, modify whatever you need to modify, so that if things do go sideways, then you can somewhat easily dust yourself off and start over without too much devastation, right? You don't want to do anything that if things go sideways, it's going to set you back so far that you're now digging yourself out of a hole to try to recover. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, just keep your head about you and just be mindful, right? Just do the research. Just make sure that you're fully educated and fully aware of the potentiality of what could come from these big risks. But don't let that scare you. Like if you do the research and you say, okay, you know what, this is the risk. Yeah, it would suck, but I am fully capable of overcoming it, whatever. It might be a little bit of a setback, but it's not going to devastate me or my family. Go for it, right? Because it's not meant to put fear in you to not do the things that your soul wants to do. It's just to be well educated to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for potential failure, right? Because it also, things with big risks, right? Things with the potential for a big risk, right? Also have the potential for not only like big devastation, but big wins, right? And so you just have to look at it for your own situation and see, what are you willing to say yes to? What are you willing to work with if it goes sideways? So competitive situations can also surface under this energy. So if that happens, try to keep those interactions light and playful. That's going to be really, really important, because otherwise you're inviting in conflict and chaos that can arise very quickly and unnecessarily. So choose how you participate, as always, with this energy. And as always, moderation is going to be key. The more that you can bring in moderation, continue to find your balance, continue to remain centered, then you are going to benefit from this energy in spades. I mean, there's just so much potential here to really flourish under this energy, but just remain as grounded as possible as you play in this 5 energy. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at each individual life path number now. Life path number 3. So I pulled an animal spirit message for you all, and you got raccoon energy. And this energy actually marries very beautifully with the undercurrent energy that you all are working with for August, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But raccoon is coming in to bring the enthusiasm, to bring that energy of the free spirit, to bring big, bold, new ideas. And so this is very much 5 energy as well. So if there's anything where you have been restricting yourself, like sort of self-imposed restrictions, where you haven't been letting yourself think big or dream big or go after those things that you really, really want, this is sort of like Page of Wands energy. This is like those big ideas and inspirations coming in and getting excited about moving towards them and planning on how you want to move towards them, initiating that, and actually starting to like move towards that, right? Like making that happen, trusting yourself in taking big risks, that sort of thing, while also staying grounded. But with raccoon energy coming through, again, it's kind of like, it's just this sort of like very adaptable energy, rolling with the punches, going, working with whatever it is that sort of life hands to them, not making big drama out of a situation, but making the best out of the situation, right? And using whatever, again, is sort of presented to them to make the most out of it, to find the benefit in that situation, right? So yeah, any opportunities that come up for you this month, any big ideas, think of raccoon energy. And sometimes they're seen as like scavengers or very opportunistic. That's okay. Sometimes we have to scavenge through the sort of chaos and the mess to find the gems, to find the nourishment, to find the little golden nuggets. And so you may feel a little bit like maybe you're being the scavenger this month, but that's okay, because what you might discover through that sort of scavenger hunt can be very, very freeing for you, right? So again, release the self-imposed restrictions as much as possible. Okay, so for you all, for August, again, you're working with this undercurrent energy of the 8. This is going to be, or has the potential to be for 3s, a great month for all things business or career. So your career, your business, your sort of livelihood, your creative life force, whatever it is, getting yourself out there creatively, being recognized, all of that, your career sector or your volunteer sector, whatever you do to like share your gifts, that can blow up now in a big way. So like you could be, again, just, go through some like big sort of splurge or surge of recognition now, acknowledgement, accolades, an influx of clients could come through. You could see a huge spike in your like maybe funding for a project, whatever the case may be. But this is beautiful, beautiful energy for, again, taking those big ideas and turning them into something tangible. Very, very supportive energy for that. So this is a great month for you all for launching new projects, for setting a plan in motion, taking those big risks and going after those big dreams. Definitely still stay grounded because you're still working with this 5 energy. That's, the 8 energy is very much more physical. It's very like grounded energy for the most part, but you're still working with the 5 energy collectively. So as part of the collective. So you still have to kind of keep yourself grounded and not get too caught up to where you're so idealistic that you're missing sort of the reality of the situation. So kind of, again, try to find a way to marry both. But for you all, this is such powerful energy when it comes to putting those plans in motion and, again, creating something in the physical from the more ethereal, right? So definitely take those big risks, go after those big dreams. The other thing here is don't put others on a pedestal, right? So this is also about like balancing out power. So if there is anyone that you sort of, it's one thing to like admire somebody and their experiences and their contribution and that sort of thing. That's not necessarily putting somebody on a pedestal. When we put somebody on a pedestal, we're saying you're better than I am. You are, I will never be what you are type thing, right? And so again, yes, people can have more expertise in a certain area than we do, but that doesn't make them better than us. That just means that they're an expert at what they do and they're good at it. And that's great. But be really mindful of not putting others on a pedestal and letting that deter you from asking for what you need in order to create whatever it is that you're trying to create. Because a lot of times what we do, again, if there's like some sort of feeling of inferiority, is we will sort of shy away from asking those people who we've put on a pedestal for assistance, for, to work with us or whatever the case may be. And it's very possible that they may have put themselves on a pedestal and they might miss out on working with somebody really, truly amazing, i.e. you, because they feel like they are better than. And if that's the case, then those are not your people to work with. But don't let yourself be deterred from asking the people that you feel would be a good match to work with or to ask for assistance or whatever, because you feel like they are better than you and you are not worthy, right? There's going to be sort of, I think, some energy around this month where it's going to ask you to really look at that. Like, where have you been sort of self-sabotaging by thinking somebody's better than you or are not approachable or that you're not worthy of what it is that they have to share? If they're an expert in a certain area, that means that they potentially have what you need to be able to, because if you're not the expert in that area and they are, instead of putting them on a pedestal and being like, okay, I'm not worthy of their expertise, they have what you need, ask them, right? And let it unfold as it needs to unfold. But my point being, don't like restrict yourself or shy away from going after what it is that you need in order to create these big dreams or to bring that magic into the physical, simply because you don't feel worthy or whatever the case may be. Because again, you're not better than anybody else. You're not higher than anybody else. You're not lower than anybody else. We are all equals. Where we have our expertise does not bleed into making us better or worse than somebody else, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. I think that's going to be coming in just to be looked at. If there's anywhere, again, where you're not asserting yourself or asking for what you need to thrive because of this sort of inferiority or superiority, right? You might be in a position where someone comes to you this month asking for assistance, and maybe you don't think like, because they don't have a big following or a big social influence, or they're not an influencer or whatever, right? Whatever it is that our ego feeds off. Maybe you would normally turn them down because you don't feel like, oh, well, they don't have a big audience, so they're obviously not that good. We miss out on a lot of gems because of just faulty thinking like that, right? So I would say if someone comes to you this month looking for assistance, looking for mentorship, looking for, your expertise, for you to share that in some way, do it in a way that feels good for you, right? Like get an equal exchange of energy. But don't not work with someone or push or sort of send somebody away because you feel superior, right? Or inferior. That's the whole message. Just kind of pay attention to that this month, because again, when we do that, we are missing out on potentially some great partnerships, some great relations, some great success stories. So it all comes down to our perspective and how we view things. So this has, again, like I said, if I can speak, a potential to be a really powerful month for you all, creatively, career-wise, through like business partnerships, financially, equalizing power, that sort of thing. So I hope it's a great month for you all. Thanks so much for listening. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.